Good afternoon. Thank everybody for coming today. With me, Sheriff Mike Kelley is Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow and Will County Coroner Pat O'Neill. On September 12, 2019, at approximately 3:30 p.m., the Will County Coroner's Office has received a phone call from an attorney representing the family of Dr. Ulrich Klopfer, who passed away on September 3, 2019. The family attorney informed the Coroner's Office that while the family was going through the doctor's personal property, cleaning out the residence, they discovered what appeared to be fetal remains and requested the assistance of the Will County Coroner's Office to properly remove them. The Will County Coroner's Office contacted both the Will County Sheriff's Office and the Will County State's Attorney's Office regarding the information conveyed by the family's attorney. Will County Sheriff's detectives, crime scene investigators, and a Will County Deputy Coroner arrived at the Klopfer residence located in unincorporated Crete Township and met with representatives of the Klopfer family and the family's attorney. Personnel on scene were directed to an area of the property in the attached garage of the home where 2,246 medically preserved fetal remains were located. Over 70 cardboard boxes of various sizes contained these remains. The remains discovered were inside a small sealed plastic bags which contained formalin, a chemical used to preserve biological material. The boxes that contained the fetal remains were mixed among other boxes containing personal property of Dr. Klopfer. Crime scene investigators with the Will County Sheriff's Office documented the scene, and the remains were subsequently removed from the property by the Will County Coroner's Office. Personnel with the Will County Sheriff's Office searched the entire property and found no evidence of medical procedures occurring on the property, nor were there any other fetal remains discovered during the search of the property. Dr. Klopfer performed abortions in at 3 clinics in the state of Indiana. The containers of fetal remains are dated from 2000 to 2002, which coincides with the period of time he maintained the clinics in Indiana. The Klopfer family has been cooperating fully throughout this investigation, and there is still work that needs to be done in this case. The Will County Sheriff's Office, the Will County Coroner's Office, and the Will County State's Attorney's Office have been in contact with additional agencies both in and out of the state of Illinois in regards to this investigation. All involved agencies are still in the early stages of attempting to bring this case to a resolution. We collectively ask that the media and the public not pass judgment on the Klopfer family who made this startling discovery and who have been cooperating fully throughout this entire process. That will conclude this portion of the press conference, and will now allow any questions.
Do we know why the remains were in his garage? Any indication, any letters left behind, anything like that?
No, we do not know.
Is it illegal to bring fetuses from Indiana to Illinois? Is that against the law?
We are working with the Indiana Attorney General's office, and arrangements are being made to transfer the fetal remains to their custody. Obviously, he had 3 clinics in Indiana, and I think it involves 2 different counties. There'll be county prosecutors and the Indiana Attorney General. I know the Indiana legislature has weighed in on this also, and somebody told me that Vice President Pence has called them about this. So,
Is what he did illegal?
well, again, there's requirements for record keeping, and that's one of the issues that the Attorney General in Indiana is initially addressing, because obviously these records were not handled properly back at that time. But as far as other aspects of this is still an open investigation. We've concluded what we can do here in Illinois. The Sheriff's Office and the Coroner Pat O'Neill have done a fantastic job in handling this very delicate situation, and they did a yeoman's job in inventorying all of the information, and that again will be transferred to Indiana in the very near future. Again, because it coincides with the time that he would have been doing the abortions in Indiana, most of the evidence of anything that occurred is there. And we will remain in contact with them, and if they, he had mentioned during one of his testimonies that he had done an abortion on a 10-year-old girl, and this is public information, in Illinois. And the uncle had raped the child, and they did the abortion, and the parents took her home, and no one reported it. Now, we have no further information about that other than that, but I certainly would like to learn more about that.
So how are they letting the family know that this was in the garage?
Again, they did not know. They did not know, but once they discovered it, they called Coroner O'Neill and the sheriff.
How are the plastic bags that you referred to labeled? And have you have an ability to reach out to the women involved in this?
Again, there are privilege aspects to this case that bar us from talking about that. Again,
Are they
Family
labeled?
name on the bag?
again, there are privilege aspects that would prevent us from talking about that.
Any determination about the approximate gestational age of these fetal remains?
Again, we can't comment on that.
Are you considering all these fetal remains as humans and babies and not just medical waste?
Again, they're fetal remains, and I can't discuss the gestation of them. Again, after we make the transfer to Indiana, the Indiana Attorney General is going to ask the public if they want to inquire of their agency if they're aware of anything that happened during that time period that would affect them, then they would be able to contact the Attorney General.
Have
And are
you
they
ever
stored at
had any type
158
of-
Scott Street? Is that where the remains are today?
I'm sorry?
Are they over at the coroner's office at 158 Scott Street?
Again, that's privileged
Is
information.
there
Have you-
anyone else you're looking for? This might be more for Indiana, but is there anyone else, an accomplice or anyone charges or anything of that aspect?
Again, this is still an open investigation. We will be cooperating with Indiana authorities. The next step of this would be you can make inquiries of their agency as to what they feel they can release or not release. But with regards to that privilege aspect of this, to break that privilege, the individual whose information is being protected has to reach out and say they want to waive it.
But is there
So-
any indication that he worked with someone to bring the remains here?
Again, we have no evidence to indicate any criminal activity at that house other than potentially the existence of the evidence that we found.
How hard has this been for investigators to wrap their head around this? I know people at home are just thinking, wow.
Yes, well, Mike,
Yeah,
if you want to
it's-
address
yeah,
that.
it's, you know, we held the house for a couple days and then we searched it. It took about 50 of our detectives and our personnel to go through this residence because it's a very, very large residence and there were hundreds and hundreds of boxes that we had to go through to make sure there were no more of these remains in that residence. So I can tell you in the 31 years that I've been doing this job, I've never seen anything like this ever. It is a strange, it's one of those once in a lifetime things.
Was he, in speaking to neighbors, he's been described as a very open man, and his garage doors were open much of the time. Was he trying to conceal any of this? It certainly doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't appear as if he was trying to.
Mike, what about motivation? Would there be any motivation at all as to not disposing of these properly? I mean, abortions are done all the time.
Right.
They're disposed of property by third parties usually.
It's hard for us to speculate on that simply because it was from 17 to 19 years ago on what, and without being able to talk to him, obviously, because he's deceased, it's kind of tough for us to even speculate what his motivation was to bring him there. We're not, I would imagine that the Attorney General of Indiana will probably do some more of that investigating, asking, because he had 3 clinics, and obviously he had other employees that worked in those clinics, so they got a lot of work. They got a lot of work to do.
Is it expensive to dispose of remains like that? Was he trying to cut corners? I mean, there've been some reports in some newspapers in Indiana that he didn't do anything illegal, but he just didn't follow through on a lot of the things. I mean, is it money?
We haven't looked into what it would cost, honestly, Scott, to determine the removal of medical waste, because that wasn't our focus at that time, right? Our focus was to try to clear that house and make sure that, we didn't leave any box unopened, so to speak. So I couldn't answer that question. 'Cause we
Was
didn't-
there any other
you don't mind coming
medical
to the mic.
material or maybe lab material in the home?
Pardon me?
Like he
Was there any other
testing-
medical material or lab material?
Was he testing the remains?
No.
I mean, is there any idea that? what-
No, we didn't find any other type of
Is
medical,
it just him and his wife that live there?
yes.
So what happens now?
Describe the
These are
garage for
remains.
us.
Pardon
The
me?
boxes, describe the garage for us for the boxes.
Just imagine your garage and you walk in and you're storing whatever, car parts, bottles of motor oil, whatever you can that's what the garage looked like, basically. Ceiling to floor, almost. Well, yeah, of course, yeah. So that's why it was hard. Like I said, it was just like anybody else's garage. They would have got
What happens
boxes.
to them now? What happens to the remains?
Well, we're hoping that soon we'll be turning them over to the Indiana Attorney General.
So we
Still
know
have
for
custody
sure
of them
that
right
they're,
now?
Well, they're still in Will County.
we know for sure that they're all from Indiana, all of the fetuses.
You know that for sure?
Again, as we've said, it coincides, the fetal remains that we have, the dates coincide with when he was operating his 3 clinics in Indiana. He was not operating any clinics in Will County or in Illinois that we're aware of. We found no evidence on the property that any of the abortions were performed there. The fetal remains will be transferred, as I said, to the Illinois Attorney General's office.
Indiana.
I'm sorry, the Indiana Attorney General's office, and they will take custody of those, and they will be preserving them for evidentiary purposes at this point, and then you'll have to inquire
And they all
of
have a
them.
date on them. You said there's
I-
a date on
no,
the old one you just said?
We're not commenting on what records we have or we don't have, but,
That coincided with.
yeah, again, we know that the time period, but I can't tell you how we know that time period.
How do you know they haven't happened recently since his license was revoked?
The condition that we found, it's clear that they're older.
Mr. Glasgow, can you explain what crimes he could conceivably be charged in Illinois, the crimes he could conceivably be charged with in Indiana? Just kind of
Well,
give us a broad brush.
Again, he's deceased, so none.
I'm sorry,
But
if he were alive, what crimes would he have been committed here?
and again, you know, he failed to follow Indiana law as to the disposal of the fetal remains under their law. He failed to file the proper paperwork under their law. Those are the 2 things they're going to be looking at initially. Obviously, he has facilities there that are still there. So that will be part of the continuing investigation. And then, as I said, there is a privilege that attaches to these fetal remains. And you're all aware of the HIPAA laws, correct? And so we're restrained from telling you any detailed information about that. However, if a victim comes forward and wants to inquire of their own information, they can waive that privilege.
A victim, do you mean someone who had an abortion?
Well, again, and I use the word victim in general terms, but if someone who did have an abortion performed upon them, they could come forward and contact the Indiana Attorney General's office, and they've made that offer, that can be done.
In that case, what would justice look like? I mean, the guy's dead, the fetus were aborted. So what would justice look like in this case?
Well, you know, I don't want to speculate. Certainly, because of the age that we're talking here, there's statutes of limitations that apply also, and they're different in Indiana than they are here. So that's all got to be looked at and sorted out. The only crime potentially that could come of this is if we had a 13-year-old child who had an abortion. The person that impregnated that child would be guilty of statutory rape, potentially. So, but that's, you know, again, because of the age of these remains, I don't know if that will be possible under Indiana law or not. But that's part of the further inquiry that's going to be had.
And what's the statute of limitations on that?
Indiana, I believe, I don't want to speculate.
What was it here in Illinois?
Well, it's been gradually modified to the point where I don't believe we have any statute of limitations now, but that wouldn't apply to these old issues.
So you're not looking like he was selling body parts or anything more nefarious?
Again, we have
You
we have
ruled
no
this out
evidence.
immediately?
We've concluded our investigation and find that we need to make no further criminal inquiry here, and that's why the people that would be in the best position to do that will be Indiana, and we will remain available. As I mentioned, if they get information about the 10-year-old girl and it's within the statute of limitations, certainly we would be available.
So Sheriff, your investigation's over.
For the most part, yes.
Mr. O'Neill, can you talk a little bit about what happens? There's a large Right to Life group that is out and about and very vocal in front of the podium, if you wouldn't mind. Could you explain what happens to these fetal remains exactly next?
So we very rarely ever get calls or exercise jurisdiction over these types of cases. As the sheriff indicated and the state's attorney indicated, probably one of the most unusual cases in our careers. We have over 60 years of experience here at the podium, and when I received the telephone call, obviously, it was quite surprising, to say the least. We did, however, as a result of information that's been released about this particular case, receive various telephone calls from individuals, cemetery associations, the Catholic Church, offering free burials for the fetal remains. Now, in the event that Illinois were to hang onto or exercise jurisdiction over this particular case, we probably would have used one of those avenues. But as the state's attorney indicated, it appears as though the Indiana Attorney General is going to exercise jurisdiction, so the final disposition will be up to their department.
Can you also speak to the cause of death of Dr. Klopfer?
All I can say at this point is it appears as though Dr. Klopfer died of natural causes.
Matt, you're not an abortion doctor, but what happens when there's an abortion with the fetal remains? If this would have been disposed of properly in Indiana or any other state, how are they disposed of properly?
In Illinois, we very rarely, or we never exercise jurisdiction as far as the coroner or medical examiner's offices are concerned. So whatever form of disposition either the hospital or the clinic provides is up to them, and I'm not exactly sure what that answer is.
Were there any remains found behind his clinic in Gary, in a garage? Do we know?
No.
Not
We
sure.
saw some activity there. Is that just part of the investigation?
Yes.
Investigators were at a Fort Wayne abortion clinic. Was anything found or anything communicated to you about?
We haven't heard anything from the Attorney General's office as of just yet. We know they were doing some stuff today, but they haven't contacted us yet.
Were these remains sort of haphazardly thrown into these boxes, or were they sorted? Or, I mean, can you give us a little bit better sense of what you found?
There was individual packaging on every single one.
What are the chances he could have packaged this number of fetal remains and transported them to his home without someone else, like another clinic worker, being aware?
Well, again, we don't know how many employees he had. We don't know, how he operated his clinics. So there's no way that we could answer that
But you're not
question.
gonna investigate anybody accomplices or anything else, you're just done with it?
No, that's not what I said. We've
But the
concluded that
investigation was over.
there's nothing more in Illinois that we can do.
Right.
That's why are we gonna work hand in hand with the Indiana Attorney General's office, probably the Indiana State Police, the two or three prosecutors in the counties there that are gonna be looking into this. And if they need our assistance in any way, we'll be available. If they uncover anything that occurred in Illinois and it's in our county, we will handle it. If it's not in our county, we'll work with the prosecutor in the county that it is applicable to,
A
so.
representative from the Indiana Attorney General's office has been here the last 2 days, working with our whole detective division. So I said that in Will County, pretty much but we're still investigating because we're assisting the Indiana Attorney General's office and any police agencies they may get involved on their end. So we're still working it, but
Would you be able to share what procedures, if any, the medical examiner here did on those remains?
There were no procedures at all done on the remains. None.
For women, just a question on that, for women who use Dr. Klopfer's services in those years, are these remains in such a status that they can be determined, the DNA extracted to determine whether or not it was Jane Doe's baby or not? Is there enough material there to make that conclusion?
Again, we can't comment on that based on the privilege aspect. As I said, if the individuals contact the Indiana Attorney General, then that can be followed up on.
So it can be followed up on.
Again, that would be up to them and that'd be up to the Indiana Attorney General. But they've indicated they're looking for people to call their office.
And just to put a point at the end of this, your confirmation of the years where these samples came from, is that more paperwork driven or more medically, scientifically examined, driven in those terms? Is it paperwork or is it science that's giving you that?
Okay, it's both.
When will the transfer be 2000 to 2002? That's when these
Yes.
fetuses were aborted.
Well, yes.
That was the label on the box. Do you know for sure that it was accurate?
Again, the examination of what we found, the totality of what we found corroborates the 2000 to 2002.
We
Okay.
will have a transfer being made.
One more question.
Just want to make sure that we're absolutely clear on this. As far as you know, there were no violations of law in Will County in this case?
Well, again, if Mr. Klopfer did something wrong, it's irrelevant at this point because he can't be prosecuted. So what we're looking for is to find out, work with the Indiana authorities to find out if there's more, and then also work with them if victims come forward that want to participate in the criminal justice system. And some of them, look, even though the clinics are in Indiana, some of these people could have lived in Illinois at the time, and so we have a connection. So, but obviously, if the crime is committed in Indiana, they would be the appropriate prosecuting authority, but we probably could assist them. So we remain open to that.
So the remains, have you been able to determine which of them were related to which location that he was working in Indiana, like South Bend, Fort Wayne?
Yeah, again, we can't talk about that specific.
Okay, we're done. We're good, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.